That's it, I'm live. And I'll just hang on for a couple of minutes and let's see who's joining us today. Well, that's it, I can see people clicking in. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Right, I'll just give it a couple of minutes, give people a chance to... I always do a countdown. I literally watch the seconds and it goes 7:30 and I go bang, live. But I understand people might be cooking their dinners or whatever, so I'll give it a couple of minutes. Amanda's joined. Hello. Oh, Hubs is watching from downstairs. Susie's there. Hi, Susie. Oh, Leandra's here. She made it. Yay. Tina's here. Angela. Oh, it's nice. You're all here. Hi, Jill. Oh, Joe's here. Fellow paper artsy designer. Hi, Joe. Joe-fee. Oh, Franca. Ciao, Franca. Debbie, you made it. Did you set your alarm? Helen. Oh, Helen Day's here. Jackie. Oh, loads. Lovely. Nice to see you all. Thank you for joining me. See, people are still joining, so I'll just give it a little bit longer. Now, as you can see, I'm in my little studio. It is very, very little studio, actually. I don't tidy it or anything. This is it. This is me. This is keeping it real. You can see all my nice pencil cases and journal shelves and everything there. But this is it. This is how it is. Sandra's joined. Hey, my sister's here. Claire. And Katie. Hey, Katie's given us loads of samples to have a look at as well today, so thanks to Katie. James is here from Stampers Grove. Nice to see everyone. Well, I can't see you, but you know what I mean. Diane's here. Yeah, lots of people are clicking my little emojis and things. Now, I'm glad everything seems to be working okay. I upgraded my phone last week, and you know, it's really nice to get a new phone. But does anybody else feel this? Updating your phone and having to transfer everything across and you're being told it's fine, it's all safe in the cloud. It's terrifying. And then trying to get logged back into everything and just trusting the whole process. I find it absolutely terrifying. So it seems to be working okay. A few people still joining. Okay, we'll make a slow and steady start. I'm aiming for about half an hour if I don't talk too much. So welcome and thank you for joining me, everybody. Also, thank you for, if you're joining later, watching the replay. It's nice early evening slot here in the UK, but of course it's silly o'clock somewhere. I do get that. So this will be recorded, so you might be watching it on catch up, replay, and it will also be shared in my creative group. And if you're not in that group, do come and join us. It's called Create with Kate, and everything is there. And if you look along the top bar, where it says featured, that's where everything's pinned to make it nice and easy for you to find access to videos and any kind of resources. Anything that I want you to find will be pinned there. So thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you to our stockists and retailers, and hopefully some of those will be here. And please do feel free to share your links in the comments. So some of you may not know this, but when Paper Artsy released the new designs, they're only available to buy from stockists originally. So do support your local retailers. If you go to the Paper Artsy blog, at the top there is a button that says find your stockist, and it's listed by country. So wherever you are in the world, you should be able to look up and find the stockist in your area, and then you can support your local retailers, as we all really do need to do. So today, I have got 3 new stamp sets and 3 new stencils. I'm going to give you a really good close look at those once I've turned the camera. So I have got a mixture here of some Christmas, but not all Christmas. But I'm a big believer in, if you paint something red and green and stick a hat on it, you can make it Christmas anyway. So I will be showing you that as well. And I've also got 3 stencils. I do love a good all over background stencil because it suits the way that I work. And I'm going to do something a bit different today. I'm going to give you a little peek inside my mini sketchbook. So I always use a traveller's journal and I carry it with me everywhere, just a little passport size one. And when I'm teaching, I always say to people, always carry a sketchbook, because the most random moments you might find inspiration and do a little drawing or something. And I'm going to show you the origins of some of my designs and how things evolve. I just think it might be a little bit interesting. So they're not all Christmas, but they could be Christmas. And it's not that long till Christmas now, I hate to say it, but we do like to start a little bit early. It's no good bringing Christmas stamps out in December, so you need a little bit of time. I have got a new paper artsy wingman or wingwoman. So Katie's moved on in the team and I now have Renata working alongside me. Now I'm lucky because I've been able to have a little sneak peek at Renata's blog post and it's amazing. You're going to love it. She shared a fantastic technique which I haven't tried but I'm going to, and beautiful bright colour. You're going to really love it. So welcome to Renata and thank you for working with my designs. Katie, however, she's still very much part of the Paper Artsy team. She's geographically close to me, so we see each other quite often. She comes and does a bit of demoing at shows with us and things. So she's done us, look at this stash here. Samples of Katie. So I've got those to share as well. So I've got lots of mine and lots from Katie, and also don't forget, do check out Renata on the blog. And one other thing I want to say, Paper Artsy is very, very lucky to have the most fantastic team of bloggers that share so much inspiration and lots of technique, photos and samples. So do check out the blog. We're very lucky to have them working alongside us and they are a great resource. Now, let me just check my list and make sure I said everything I needed to say. Right, 2 more things I need to say before I turn the camera. After this recording is finished, if you go to the Paper Artsy blog, my blog post will have gone live and I've got close-ups of all of my samples on there and a little bit of explanation, so you can go to the Paper Artsy blog and see everything a little bit closer. Over the next coming days I will also share them in my creative group on Facebook and Katie samples as well, because I know sometimes it's really helpful, you want to zoom in and have a closer look. So I'll gradually be sharing those over the next few days probably. Right, I am going to turn the camera and give you a closer look at things. So hold on to your hats for a minute because this is always a little bit wobbly and potentially a bit noisy. And then we'll get the lighting right. Right, I'll just lift it a tiny bit higher, just bear with 1 second. I want to get it right to start with, then you can see things. So hopefully, is that a clear view everybody? Give me a little thumbs up or whatever. That's looking all right. Okay, so let's start here at the beginning. I'm going to show you these stamp sets one at a time. Now, these are the ones, I just did notice that Leandra's just put a post on below and she's calling them possibly extraterrestrial. They could be. Even I don't know really what these are. These are the ones I'm going to show you in my sketchbook, how they kind of came about. And when I originally sent these off to Mark, Mr. Paper Artsy, to do all of his kind of technical wizardry with things, I just called them blobby people. I couldn't really think of another name for these. My husband says they look like they're in a sleeping bag. You know when you're in a sleeping bag and you've got your hood up? They look a bit like that. When my daughter saw them, she said they look like Weebles. Do you remember Weebles? Weebles wobble, but we don't fall down. They're those little weighted, round sort of toys. And they do, I think it's the sort of rounded shape. So Leandra thinks they're extraterrestrials. I'm not really sure. I quite like them because they're not one thing or another. And these are the ones that I think can also be Christmassy, and I will sort of show you that. They also have on here, so these random little quotes, these just come to me when I'm drawing things. They just sort of appear out of nowhere. And tiny, these little texture stamps. Now, I've taken mine out. These are the sort of thing, these are going to live in my pencil case probably, because they are so handy for adding to backgrounds, and you'll see quite a lot of that today. Now this one is definitely Christmassy. Two kind of flying fairies here, and this is a Christmas tree, but this one is a Christmas tree or a toadstool, depending how you colour it in. And then Christmas gnomes of all shapes and sizes. So sometimes you want a taller, thinner to go maybe on a tag, something a little bit, just a generally bigger one. This is a lovely round shape for colouring in. And then I wanted this little tiny row, and I didn't join them so that you can cut them out individually or just stamp them on a longer piece, which I will show you samples of that. So those are the 3 stamp sets. And then these are the 3 stencils. And I'll show you again where these have come from in my backgrounds, how things have evolved. This kind of random circle shape is what I always freehand draw in backgrounds with this cross in the middle. And I usually do it as a one movement with a pen. But this is how it's come out as a stencil. And then I wanted some hearts, but I didn't want like nice, neat hearts. I wanted these kind of misshapen, drippy hearts. And this one, which is very simple in design, but incredibly useful. I've used this one so much. And again, I'll be showing you those samples. Now, let me just show you my sketchbook. My sketchbooks are a little bit random because I will have little sketches and designs, and then right in the middle I'll put a list of flowers that I've seen in the woods, or a shopping list, or a diary entry. It's just, you know, spontaneous. Now, this is how the little figures actually started. I got a new nib for a pen, and I reached across and just scribbled it on a desk sketchbook thing, just to make notes on. And then I came back later and I looked and thought, oh, I quite like that. So he's actually cut out and stuck on. And then from there, I started to draw more. They got a little bit more sophisticated, playing with poses and things. This one here, actually, is here. And there's some more in here. See, so he became, or she, or it, whatever it is, here. And then hands in the air. So you can see how I started to get a bit more playful with these. And some of these have literally been drawn when I've been sitting on a beach, outside a cafe, when I've been on holiday. And it's a more spontaneous way to draw things like that. So there's quite a few different, you know, designs in there. Now, once they arrived as stamps, there's the original drawing, but there she is stamped. And I am very fond of a bit of negative colouring in my little sketchbooks. So I've drawn not her, I've drawn around her, or it. And here, these are the little miniatures, because I was already doing that in all of my backgrounds just with my pen. So that's kind of where they have evolved from. And now I'm going to show you some samples of how I've used them. So first of all, let's just start with this little card. Now in the background on here, you can see the stencil because I started with a print, and you can also see the heart here, and I've added a little bit extra on there with a white pen, coloured it in there. So this stamp set, I should say actually the number. So this is KC015. Now the little sign actually came from the gnome set. And I just added it there so she could have the little word party. And I've coloured her in. I'm going to bring her a little bit closer to the camera with watercolour. And you can see the little miniatures stamped here, the little circles, the little crosses. Let's put this down a bit lower to start with. Now this would normally do, I would do this in my art journal. But when I'm doing samples, I tend to do them all loose, so it's easy to carry them to shows and classes for demos and things. And I wanted this one to have an opening door. So on the front, now I'll just bring it a bit closer. I've used quite a lot of gel plate prints here with the stencil, so you can see the hearts. There's the simple line one in the background. And I've just collaged it a bit, included a bit of ledger paper. Sometimes that just neutral touch helps to tone things down a bit so that not everything's loud and colourful. And inside, here she is. Now, I've paper pieced this. So this is what I'm doing the little mini live next week. You can see the heart shape. So I've taken it from a print, but there's so much extra you can add to really sort of bed that into the image so it doesn't just look like a bit of card stuck on the top. So that's there with a little interactive flap, and that would really be in my art journal. Now this one has got more of the Christmas touch. So I did say if you colour something red and green and stick a hat on, you can make it look Christmassy. So I've doubled up the prints here. So this is with the line stencil. And then I've cut another one out in a circle. Now I hand cut this, and it's quite hard to hand cut a circle and get it really neat. So I wonky stitched on the top to disguise my wonky edges. And he's also, or she, or it, is paper pieced. So there's a gel plate print here in the green, and there's a red gel plate print here. Now I've added as well little wings, and that's from the fairy set, and I've stamped those on acetate or graphics Duralar, something like that, Yupo paper, and then I've also got a really glittery hat so that it can be all Christmassy. Now this background has been done really different. Now hang on, let me just glance at the comments. I tend to forget to look when I get busy. They look like people sleeping in pea pods. Yeah, they do. Yeah, pea pods, that's a nice one. So this is another journal page, quite a bit bigger. Probably, don't know what that measures, 8 maybe, 10, I don't know. And I've done this background very differently. So all the other samples I've shown you so far have been on gel plate prints. This one is literally scribbled paint, very loose style. Lots of the frescoes paints here. I like a lot of Tracy's colours and Seth's. I love Seth's, got beautiful yellow as well. So there's some of Seth paints and Tracy's paints here. And I've built up the layers in the background. So there's lots and lots of layers. And I always say this about my journal pages, my artwork in general. There's nothing hard. There's just a lot of layers in it usually, because I think you can build layers and add more and more. So you can see in the background. So here is the circle cross stencil, the heart stencil, and I've just sponged through. So I've got the stencil, and with a sponge and the acrylic paint, I've sponged through. Here's the simple lines you might be able to see here. So in the white here, and then the circle crosses, and it just builds up that pattern in the background. And then I'll just bring it a little bit closer. You can see I've also crayoned on that as well. So I've used, I think, distress crayon there, but oil pastel, anything like that, just to build that colour. Now these little creatures, they are quite small if you want to put them on a bigger page, but we all know that 3 always works well. So by adding 3 and just giving them a little row of something to stand on, and then I've tipped him upside down, because the quote says, oops, upside your head, which I took from the stamp set. And that's a way of using a small stamp on a bigger page. And these little numbers here also come from the gnome set, which I'll show you in a moment. Then I've added quite a bit of gold on top. The fresco's metallic gold with credit cards and bottle lids and things. And then again, you can see how the miniatures have snuck in again on the background. Right, I'm going to put those crazy creatures to one side for a moment. And so this one is definitely Christmassy. Let me just dig out my samples of these. So here, first of all, is the fairy. Now actually I added that on afterwards just to show you really, because to start with I just had a flying free over a background with the lines, so gel plate print again, and she's coloured in watercolour, and then a little row of trees. Remember that if you do them red, they could look like a toadstool, so I've got a kind of a mixture going on there. And then I've just put her on a little bit of acetate so that she can be kind of flying free. But she could, so on the set there is actually a wand, which I have used on another sample and I'll show you in a moment, but you could also give her a sign from the other set if you have that set as well. So you just build things up. You know, she could have 2 signs, she could, you could play about with that. Now, a couple of interesting things going on here. This tree, I'm going to try and bring it closer and keep it in focus. This tree is also paper pieced, and you can see how I've cut a different piece for every segment of that tree and all the extra layers that I've put on top. I'm not going to explain those now because I'm going to do that next week as my little mini live. So I've just done this one as a tag, but also what I've done, I'll try and show you a bit more here. It's quite hard to show this in this light. I've used again a bit of acetate or Duralar, Yupo, and the gold metallic. Here's another piece I did actually. This is on a matte piece, and I've just sponged it through the stencil and added it under here. And if you add it with sticky fixers but hide those behind that top element, you get this really nice kind of floating layer. But there's the tree, paper pieced, with all the extra little details on there. Now here's the other fairy, and she's got much bigger wings, and again she's paper pieced. I think we all do this, don't we? We go through phases of doing something and it seems to work, so you keep doing it. So obviously I'm in a paper piecing phase. But when you do, because I've used a gel plate print, you can see on her body there, you can't get that texture by colouring in. So that's one of my gel plate prints, and underneath her wings as well. And then I've printed the wings again on acetate so that it's just given it that little 3D bit there. This background was a pickup print, and I've, oh, and here, look, you get to see, this is the circle crosses. And here, this is in fact, to make that little bunting along the bottom, this is the toadstools or the Christmas tree kind of upside down to make bunting. So it's a tree, it's a toadstool, or it works as bunting. And I should say I didn't do it again, did I? This is the stamp set 16, KC016. And let me see if I've got any more samples. Now, at this point, I'm going to try and show you my mobile. This is quite hard to show because obviously it needs to hang and it's 3D. I'm just going to move it up and down a bit to show you how I've built this. So this is just a really little fun Christmas decoration thing. You could hang it in your window. There's a picture actually on my blog post of it hanging in literally above my fireplace in my house. Now, when I first put this together, so I had all of the little fairy stamps here and like a little toadstool. You can see here, this is another paper pieced Christmas tree. Look at the detail in that because I've used the prints. And then I've layered it up as well with just little tags using those Christmas trees again. And then a couple of the fairies, and this time I've given them wands. And these extra stars of the wand you can add. Now, because I've added this with acetate. Now, when I first made this, I did it with invisible thread. Took me ages to thread it all. Went to hang it up, it all twisted, it got in a knot, nothing would hang the right way around, and a few rude words were said. So I ripped it all apart in a temper and then decided to add it on strips of acetate, which works so much better. Nothing twists, everything holds, and you can keep adding. So I literally added the gnome this morning because all you need to do is add another bit of acetate and stick it on there. So quite hard to show you here on camera, but it is a fun, get those the right way around, really fun project and a way of using your stamps. The little tags, by the way, are just cut out hearts from a gel plate print from the new stencil. But acetate works great for that. It doesn't get in a knot. And let's have a look at. So this is KC017. So gnomes of all shapes and sizes. And, sorry, it's very punny. There's gnome business like snow business. And these are the words that can fit in the sign here. And this is the random numbers that has crept into the backgrounds of nearly everything I've shown you. And let's just talk about these little tiny ones. These are cute when they're so little. And I wanted to be able to cut these out individually or have them as a one long strip. So here, this is a teeny tiny little junk journal. And he just fits on there, look. There's the numbers. But if you wanted just to print them, this is a really sort of quick and easy way to do a Christmas card. So I've just stamped them in a row, coloured them in, look, giving them, I don't know if you can see that, very glittery noses. And then just a little bit of shading under each one. And then you've got a row of silly little gnomes. But, yeah, of course you can just cut them out individually as well, and then you've got teeny tiny gnomes. Now this one, I've done this background a little bit differently. Let's bring it in a bit closer. So I started with a brayer. You can actually see it's got that brayer look. I like brayering, it's fast and you can build up layers and layers of colour. And then all of the sponge through the line stencil on top. And of course the numbers have crept in. I always like to bring in some black to a background. It makes everything else pop, it grounds everything, it just works, especially around the edges. So just random numbers coming in. I don't think anybody looks and thinks, why are the numbers there? It just becomes part of the background. And then here I've gone through the stencil with a bit of black as well, just to give it that depth. And then he's carrying his sign, look, and this one says, cheers. And I just want to show you a close-up, even though it's on the... So here, he's paper pieced again. So this bit down here was a bit of a gel plate print, and this is hat as well. And he's a really nice kind of tall, skinny size that sometimes you need something. If you're doing a tall, narrow tag, for instance, you just need maybe a different shape. I'm going to show you some backgrounds now that I've done with the stencil. So obviously a lot of the backgrounds I've cut into and used. So when I get all my new designs sent to me, the first thing I do is make loads of backgrounds, cut out loads of stamps, and then I've got plenty to play with rather than starting each project from scratch. It's hard starting from scratch. There's a lot of overthinking goes into it, whereas if you can just grab a print and go, I find it much easier. Just going to check the, love the gnomes. Gnomes are cute. So Debbie Louise wasn't a gnome fan until she saw these. Oh, thanks. So let's just have a look at the stencils. So, right, the circle cross. So like I said, this is, let's see if I can find it to show you. This is something that appears all the time. Here, look. When I do a sketch and then I fill in the background. So it's always there. So I wanted it to be on that kind of a scale, a bit bigger, to use as an all over. And here you'll see some of my prints. And depending on how much alcohol ink I've used on these ones, you know, this is slightly flooded, but the colours are nice. There's pickup prints, there's some stronger prints. And you've already seen those in use in my backgrounds. So that one is stencil 483. Now these hearts, I wanted drippy hearts. I wanted misshapen hearts. So my stencils are all hand drawn. I don't like things to look too digital. It's easy to go in and clean things up digitally, but I like that kind of hand-drawn, slightly wonky look. So I've made them actually quite deliberately wonky, and then the little drips off. So you can print, although you can see I've cut a lot of these out to use. That must have been a nice one. I've used nearly all of it. You can see how it leaves this lovely little wonky shape here, that kind of primitive style. And again, you've seen those already a lot in the backgrounds. There's a slightly stronger one. And that's the sort of thing I would cut out to add onto a tag to hang, say, on the mobile, because it's just a nice clean shape there. And then these lines. So this is PS485. And this is taken from, let's see if we can find an example here of them. So when I do things like this and draw my little lines across the page, what I did was take a section of those and just enlarge them. So these originally were done with an ink pen, a fountain pen with a fancy nib, like a calligraphy nib, and that's where those lines have come to when I've enlarged them and then repeated them. And it's just such a handy background because it's a fairly simple shape, so it doesn't really fight with anything that you put on top. Sometimes backgrounds can be a bit complex and then you put something else on top and it all gets a bit busy. Whereas because this is very sort of uniform in its design, it doesn't shout a lot, it doesn't really argue with anything. I like that one actually, just in the yellows and the pinks. And so they're gel plate prints. This one is braided. I can't remember actually how I did that one. Might even be a gel plate print as well, but just with paint. But this one is braided. So similar to the background I showed you a little while ago with the gnomes. So braid background and then just sponge through repeatedly over the top and just bringing in those random bits of colour, and then I go in again with a pastel and just pull out some of that colour so you get all of that nice patches of colour, but it's still a fairly gentle background if you're wanting to put other patterns and images and things on top. Oh, you can see where I cut the circle out for my other Christmas card. Yeah, and that's the slightly more, this is braided and built up and just sponged through over the top. Nice easy technique, that one, and you get so much nice colour for your backgrounds. And now I'm going to show you some of the beautiful samples from Katie. Katie loves colour, similar to me, but she does do things quite differently, and she also likes to use a lot of, she's used embossing powders recently, which I haven't done for years, and I perhaps need to now I've seen Katie's samples. So she's done these beautiful, well, whatever they are now, people in pea pods, extraterrestrials, sleeping bags, whatever they are. Look, Katie's used a circle on hers as well, and she's done something different with the stencil here. So it looks like she's gone through here with texture paste, and then so there's definite texture there, and she's got glitter on top. Gorgeous colours. I love those blues, and she's taken a previous stamp set here, the wings and the Just Wing It. So she's mixing stamp sets here from previous collections as well. Put your hands in the air. This one I think will be good as well for occasions. It's quite, the way she's got her hands in the air is quite celebratory, it's quite joyful, but it reminded me of, you know, when you're on the roller coaster and everybody puts their hands up and put your hands in the air, like you just don't care. And Kate has introduced this heart here, nice bold black look. She's also likes building in lots of black, and she's embossed white on the black. Isn't that effective? I really like that. And this one is just colour. Nice bunting. It looks like she's just cut triangles out of gel plate prints there to make that, stitched it on. But look at that. I'm going to bring this a bit closer. Look at that fabulous colour. So you can see really clearly here, she's got the circle crosses in the background. And then she's coloured it beautifully with the watercolours, I think, just to pull it all together. And in Katie's background, she's used the little teeny tiny mini stamps, and she's stamped them in colour and in black, and she's built up that background there. Super nice. I love that green. That's fabulous. And this is previous. I've demonstrated before using a Sharpie through previous stencils that I've done on acetate to build up really strong, bold black marks. And that's what Katie's done there, I think. And Katie's also fond of the acetate and little bouncing little characters. And again, you can see the lines in the background there. This one I think is really striking. She's used infusions here. And that's really just a very colourful splat. You can see the walnut crystals coming out really nicely in that. But doesn't it look effective when she's bouncing over the top? Another little acetate one. A lovely springy little fairy on there. Super nice. And then she's done some Christmas cards. Now, one of the things I really like is when other people use the stamps that you've designed, and of course you yourselves as well, and you're sharing things online. It's so nice to see, because you do things I would never think of, and it's really nice to see how different people use things. And for some reason I would never think of this, but Katie's done it. She's stamped the words on the tree, and it just works really well. So obviously now I've got to do that because it's such a good idea. Now look at the gnomes. Now, when I said to you before, he's just a really nice round shape to colour, but also that round sits really well inside that round. And Kate has done another really interesting thing here. She's added 3, and she's got all the words on there of the little sign or whatever you might call it. Don't really know. And she stuck a pom-pom on for his nose. Now this is a nice example of using the teeny tiny ones as individuals. And here, look, in a window. That's so cute. And when I said to you, different size gnomes, the tall, more kind of skinny sort of shape, just sits so nicely on that card. And she hasn't put it bang in the centre. She's put it slightly offside, which works really well. And he's got a very, very glittery nose and beard. And one final one of Katie here. She's literally cut a heart shape out of a gel plate print. You can see the lines there, the stencil, and the background. I'll see if how close I can get it before I lose my focus. There, look. Can you see all the little teeny tiny minis? How she's built up that background, colour on colour, tone on tone. So it's a really gentle background, then she's just cut out that red, really striking heart shape. Absolutely lovely, and it's very, very glittery. So there you have loads and loads of samples. I'm going to lay them all out before I say goodbye to you all and let you go and get your dinner. I hope you have enjoyed seeing all these quirky, funky little creations. Now don't forget, you can go and check out the Paper Artsy blog. They're all there for you to have a close-up look. I will be sharing them in my Facebook group. And this video will also be shared in my Facebook group, and then you can have a close look at everything. So just a little reminder before I disappear. So we've got, okay, see, 15 is the whatever you want to call them. I'll wait and see what you all come up with. The gnomes are, oh no, the fairies are 16 and the gnomes are 17. And then the coordinating, and ever so useful, circle crosses, 483, drippy hearts, 484, and the lines, wobbly lines, 485. I do hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure to be able to share all of this with you. Thank you to Leandra and Mark and the whole team at Paper Artsy, of course, who work incredibly hard pulling all of this together. Thank you to the Paper Artsy bloggers for their never-ending inspiration. And also to our retailers and stockists, who I hope you have managed to share some links here. And again, a reminder, go and look on the blog, look under stockists and find out where your locals are. Thank you all so, so much. I will go back and check if there's any questions, because I'm afraid I didn't really read any. Well, I was too busy talking. So I will go back and have a look and try and answer any questions. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely evening.